Everybody, welcome to the Riff Mountain, the first episode of a new installment I'm going to have going bi-weekly. This is going to be good. Just let me turn down the home office. We have a special guest tonight on the new Riff Mountain episodes here. Super cool pedals, a Canadian builder that I'm happy to be working with and I'm happy to have on the Riff Mountain. I'm just going to get him in here soon. So figure out how to do this. I should have probably figured out how to do this before. Super cool pedals. Can you send me a request to come on live and I'll get you in here. How is everybody doing today? Hey, Rob, how are you? I found out how to do it. Sorry about that.
Hey, no worries, man. The magic of technology. How's it going, brother?
It's going really good. Thank you for coming on the Riff Mountain and talking about your pedals.
No worries, man. I'm glad.
775 blender. Absolutely amazing pedal. I was just trying to demonstrate on the start there, that blend knob. Super unique, super fun, especially with the overdrive behind it to blend it in. Having a blast.
Thanks, man.
Anyway, sorry. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jamie. I'm from Super Cool Pedals. I'm a one-man operation. I'm based out of Toronto. I guess you're not too far from Toronto right now, so you're probably seeing a lot of the ridiculous snowfall coming down on us right now.
I haven't got any of it. I'm down just past Kingston and Gananoque, but I heard we're going to get a whole bunch of it soon. So if you're getting it now, it's just a matter of time.
Things to come, but I've been doing pedals for honestly, Super Cool as an official thing has only been about a year. I've been building pedals for a couple years longer than that.
Oh wow!
But I'm having a blast making some cool shit and sharing with people. It's been a lot of fun, man.
Amazing. So you're a relatively new company that came out.
Yeah, I mean, in this format, yeah. I've been tinkering with electronics for a long time. But funny enough, I was a musician. I've always been a musician. As you can probably tell.
Guitar or what do you play usually?
Mostly guitar. I mean, I do a lot of recording, just recording and production, things like that. I was playing. I moved to Toronto because of a band I was actually in at the time. I was playing.
Oh, really?
I was playing old transistor organ.
Amazing.
In an old band, yeah. So that's why I moved to Toronto for that band. And then, of course, as being a musician goes, it didn't pan out to too much.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. I've always been pretty utilitarian when it comes to the use of pedals. in
Okay.
like my own music. And it wasn't until I really started, you know, repairing tape machines and things like that to record with, that I kind of started progressing into you know, modding pedals and building pedal circuits, and then kind of just
Yeah.
found a new love in that, and like making cool stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's how I started. I got a Voodoo Octave from Joyo, and it
Mm.
was really tinny, like a
Yeah.
really tinny sound. And I looked up a really easy mod to flip the caps, and then I kind of got hooked from there, and it just all branched out
That's
into all
sick.
of this stuff now.
You know what? The only so totally on topic. I used to only have one pedal on stage with me, two pedals actually.
Oh
Uh,
wow,
so
only two. What were you using on stage?
the Boss ME50 multi effects. I
Yeah,
remember
there you go.
this thing came out when I was in high school. I saved up.
Wow.
I saved up a shitload, like as much money as I could, to buy this because it does everything. It was like I can't decide
Got
between a drive or a mod or a delay pedal. I'll just buy the ME50. It has them all.
Yep.
And
Instead
I,
of going through all the individual
yeah, man.
ones, just
And
everything in one
I
box.
maintain to this day, like the ME50 is like a sleeper pedal because it's got some awesome sounds on it.
I'm
But I
definitely gonna
had this,
check it out.
yeah, this thing's sick. I had that and my Big Muff, the NYC era, early 2000s Big Muff. So, and usually
Love it.
like the ME50 usually just turned into a volume pedal essentially and a whammy because it has that built in. And then the Big Muff
Okay,
was really the majority of my sound. So, an obvious
that's
graduate.
amazing.
Yeah, so this was an obvious graduation into the super cool 77 fuzz blender when I finally, you know, started building pedals.
Perfect. I have to ask you a question with that pedal, with the Big Muff. Do you run an overdrive before or after it?
with with that one.
Yeah, with
So
the Big Muff.
so it's funny. A lot of people have been asking me this lately because the thing about big muffs, I mean, most fuzzes. I won't bore you with the whole history of fuzz pedals, but most of them are transistor based, and
Yeah.
transistors are fucking finicky. And I hate working with transistors. Like
Okay.
they're a massive headache because I mean they got to be biased correctly and they get really sensitive to impedance level.
And
So a lot of
they're
the
temperamental. Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of the time like you can't run like a muff is one of the only pedals that you can run almost anywhere in a chain because it's four transistors because the more transistors you pretty much start stabilizing it. But like uh what are they? Fuzz faces and like tone benders you can't run at the beginning of the chain. But one of
So,
the things that
okay.
so this
It
I
gets
guess
all
brings me around.
blown out, right? It gets all blown out and like farty sounding, I like to say.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, kind of the rule of thumb is you want to run your dirts after, you know, most fuzzes, but that's because most fuzzes aren't op amp based and they're based off transistors, right?
Okay.
So brings me to the 77 fuzz blender.
That's
Um,
what we're doing.
in the 70s, op amps came out, which are basically a better design of doing transistor gain stages. Again, I'm try not to nerd out too much, but essentially they became
Oh no,
stable.
go
So
ahead.
all of a
Go ahead
sudden,
by all
gain
means. I'm just
stages
getting mine
became
out.
stable in the 70s, and Mike Matthews got so stoked on ICs, he had the engineers immediately get to work on doing a Big Muff version. This was an oddity. So the Big Muff with the op amps was an oddity at the time. It was made in 1977. It kind of fell off the radar after that because it wasn't exactly the same as that really aggressive fuzz sound that you get
All
from.
right. It didn't hit what everybody was looking for at the time, kind of thing.
Yeah, until, you know, fast forward a couple decades till in early 90s, Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan,
Yeah.
you use one on Siamese Dream. And
Yeah, amazing album.
I'm a 90s kid. I grew up on, you know,
How old are
Nirvana
you?
and Smashing Pumpkins and all that shit. So I mean that record was just absolutely blew me away. And that was one of the tones that I was hunting down for years and years
Yeah,
and years.
the tone on that is so amazing. It's so heavy, but they use the fuzz so musically well. It's a wall of fuzz, but it's like a nice hug.
Yeah.
it doesn't overpower anything, but you can really hear it. Like, yeah, just amazing album, amazing tones on it.
Yeah. So, that brings me to a second point, but I'll finish my first one first, I guess.
Yeah,
Op amps
sorry
are
for
no,
interrupting.
no, no, no. I'm interrupting myself. Don't worry about it, man. Op amps are super stable, so you can basically put an op amp fuzz like muff almost anywhere in the chain. Same with dirt pedals, and it's not going to be as affected by things like impedance and level and gain. So that's one awesome thing about the op amps, right? Which obviously I based the 77 fuzz blender off the op amp.
Yeah.
However, so here was my experience with the Big Muff. Okay, I fucking loved the white stripes. Jack White just just put the Big Muff back on the map along with
Damn
a lot of other stuff that was
straight.
happening.
Yeah, 100%.
I, like many kids, bought a Big Muff going, this is the sound I want. Went to jam with my band that evening, turned on the Big Muff, and all of a sudden the guitar just goes and it disappears in the mix.
Yeah, it wasn't there. It couldn't cut.
It's an awesome fuzz, like on its own, if you're in a two-piece band like the White Stripes, or you're engineering the shit out of the fuzz like the Smashing Pumpkins were.
Yeah, because it really will get lost in the mix when you're playing in a live crowd. That's why I do put overdrive, like I use the shrew or any clone before it.
Yeah.
To kind of pump the mids to cut through what you're talking about and getting it through into the mix more.
Yeah, so that's exactly. So that I found that the muff, I still have this record that I recorded that I used only the muff on the guitars, and to this day I just like cringe listening to it. It's like, no, it didn't hit the mark. It sounds thin and it sounds like shit. So I love the record, except my guitars were just like off point.
Yeah.
So that was when I started messing around with pedals and circuit designs, and really wrapping my head around understanding what was going on with the circuits. I was starting to try and replicate the op amp Big Muff, and I was like, fuck it, I want to fix what I think is wrong with this pedal. So that's where the mid boosting tone stack comes in on this guy. So
amazing.
For those of you that don't know, if you flip the switch up, you've basically got a reproduction of the Smashing Pumpkins era 1977 op amp Big Muff. That nice scooped mid sound that sounds fantastic.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge sound. But if you flip the switch down, you get that it's instead of being centered around a scoop, it's centered around a mid boost.
Okay.
So one of the other reasons is because I love Queens of the Stone Age too, and Queens of the Stone Age, like they're
definitely a '90s kid, just like me. You're naming off all of my favorite bands. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So part of me wanted to I kind of took a back end road, trying to recreate Josh Holmes's like mid heavy sound from Songs for the Deaf.
Nice.
With a fuzz pedal, which is like he doesn't use fuzzes. Like he's basically
he does
loading the shit out of bass amps for the most part. Yeah.
Shit. All right.
Yeah,
I was wondering about what he used.
But I found that you could get that sound with basically taking a Big Muff topology and like blasting the mids. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I'm proud of.
Man,
with the 77 fuzz blender, man.
It really does sound so good, and it cuts right through. And this is why I wanted to start this show. You gave me the idea, to be completely honest, but it's so good to have the builder to actually come on to the show and explain it in their own words, where they got the idea from and stuff, because as much as I could talk about it, I couldn't do what you're doing right now. You explain it so well. It gives life to the pedal and lets people really understand it. And I do have to say, it's an amazing fuzz. That blend up, just power, man. Crazy power.
Yeah,
I'm loving it.
So the blend knob also came out of something interesting, because my one of my best friend, one of my old bandmates, he's a multi-instrumentalist, and he's currently playing bass in a band. Because you know what, if you're a musician, you either live long enough to you live long enough to be a bassist eventually, unfortunately.
I know. I'm preparing.
There you go. Hey, my halfways, I got my bass 6 at least when I have to, so at least that guy's
nice. I had a bass amp. I was doing bass videos for all the pedals, and I'm gonna get back to it, but the amp I was using was a good friend of mine, and he just started another band, so unfortunately I had to take it back. But I'm thinking about getting a Crush, the orange combos, like a big orange combo or something. What a good
I've
bass
got
platform, I
two
guess.
basses, but I can never bring myself to buy an actual bass amp. I feel like that's just a road that you've gone too far, I think, at that point. Nothing against bassists. Hey, as a guitarist, though, it's just a completely different beast, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Which is why I put the blend knob in, because
Yeah.
it, most guitar pedals just obliterate bass, just and you really have to change a lot of input caps to let bass through on pedals, because pedals are kind of designed to like cut low end because it ends up
Yep.
turning up for blood. So my bassist friend, and he frankly knows a lot more than me about electrical engineering.
Okay.
We were talking, and he was like, I've always wanted to try and design, like a big muff that is able to sort of just like blend through the clean. So that was kind of one of my first like scavenger hunts in terms of learning, because
Okay.
I'll be the first to admit I am not a master of electrical engineering. I consider myself more of a modder and a designer than anything. But the
It's so
challenge
good though.
was,
It sounds so well. Like you can tell there's a lot of passion in your builds and stuff like that, and it's your idea of what you want to hear, and you brought it to life, and that's amazing. You don't have to be a master at that stuff, you know. You're a master in your own right.
well, I want to make pedals that will make 17-year-old me, use them, instead
Yeah.
of buying a big muff and then getting disappointed when you can't hear anything when you're jamming, right?
Well,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
so yeah, I basically, I mean, it's not rocket science, a blend knob, but in this case, it was a bit more of a complex engineering than I'd really thought it was going to be, because there's all sorts of phasing issues when it comes to the big muff. It goes through like 7 different gain stages. So, but anyway, yeah, the blend knob was there originally for my bassist friend, so that he could still use his fuzz and have that low end still bleed through. And then I started finding other cool applications, like you've mentioned, running an overdrive into the muff and then doing
Yeah.
like a 50-50 blend lets you like just push some midtones even more with the blend knob. It's pretty, I think it's a pretty versatile effect. But I've seen a lot of
It
bass
really is.
fall in love with this, with this particular pedal too, for that reason,
Yeah.
because you can still keep things nice
The
and clean.
sound of the pedal itself is absolutely phenomenal, but adding in that blend knob and being able to like work in harmony with the other like pedals you have on the board is just like exceptional. You know, it's just a cherry on top of the amazing fuzz pedal you already have. So it's amazing. I can't talk highly enough
Thanks.
of this pedal. So
So someone I was asking earlier if I smoked cigarettes,
yeah.
because that's a pretty obvious question with the topology there. So I'll digress for a second. It's no secret where the design of the
I
77
love it.
blender came from. Uh, I don't smoke anymore. I smoked for 10 years, and I've now been dry for, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. But I always had a soft spot for Camel cigarettes, and more so just the design and the lithography of like the packaging of, say, a pack of Camel cigarettes, or an
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
40 or something
It
like that.
catches the attention, like it catches your eye, and it's familiar,
Yeah.
you know, to a lot of people. So it's like, and it's really neat that it's on a pedal itself. I have to say, like, I think it's a boost you have, but it's the Old English. I used to drink those 40s of Old English when I was a kid, like crazy, like fill them up halfway with orange juice,
Yeah,
make
yeah,
brass
man.
monkeys and
Brass
shit.
Monkeys,
'Cause-
exactly.
yeah,
The Beastie
yeah,
Boys, rest in peace, MCA. The Beastie Boys taught us best, man. What's funny is I went to the beer store to grab a 40 for tonight, and they're a rarity sometimes. I'm on the wrong side of an affluent part of town, and the rich people don't like buying 40s very often, so
yeah.
it's like very rare.
You can't find them much around there. That's legit. Yeah, I remember when I was started buying them, they're like $3, and that was great for $10. You'd have a great
Yeah,
night, and then
dude, they're like
I haven't
$8 now.
drank in
What the
about a
fuck?
year.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah,
It
they're
used to
like
be the most
$8.
economical way to drink, man. I every Thursday when I was in university, it was 40 Thursdays, man. You
Yeah, it was a
browse through the
punk kid
couch.
thing around here, just like hilarious stuff.
But yeah, I mean that. So all that stuff and those the designs from the pedal and the visual designs, all I mean, I call them my Vice series pedals right now, because
Okay.
I figured out that like yeah, I'm basing the visual designs off of branding that I loved, and also my little vices that I've had through my whole life, cigarettes and
That's a good way
porn.
to do it, though. It's a neat little like niche thing with your own personal branding because people do love it. Like a lot of people I talk to, they're split both ways. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't care what it looks like." Like it could be nothing on it, but it
But like
does though. It draws your attention to it, makes you want to play it, and then
but
when you
like at the
do,
same
it
time, like
it means more.
you look down at your pedal board, and this is not the best example, and I'm ashamed that I have this pedal, but like, you know, by the way, sick clone of the
What's
uh
that there?
this is it's a Nux Any CH3, so it's a clone of
Okay.
Boss CH2 Course 2, I think CE2. But anyway, like look at the design on that guy. That's
Yeah.
usually what you get. It's like no name brand. You look down on your pedal board, and like some of the only companies that I think have been designing visually appealing pedals forever is EHX. Electro Harmonics. They've always
We love the theme.
put the work, even the Big Muff and that like '70s style and everything.
Yeah.
And they really they had that figured out forever. But like MXR, with
Yeah.
I love MXR, but like I don't know.
When
Just because they're tools doesn't mean we can't, you know, covet the look of things.
yeah, it's
And it's the
art. It's
same way
still
that
art.
like our vices we fall in love with because of the branding and the packaging and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's
even
one of
when
the
I started getting into them, and like, well, I got the Big Muff Pie. That was my first one. Then I bought the octave, the Voodoo octave that I modded. And then I went to my local Long and McQuaid's, and what really caught my eye and what I went to were the pedals that looked the coolest to me. I was, I was just getting into it, and I walked out with the Dispatch Master.
I,
I could have got the Boss delays, but it was the Dispatch Master that I went with, right,
yeah,
with the
yeah.
artwork.
Yeah,
So
no, same. It was always what looked the flashiest and what button can I press that'll fuck shit up the most.
yes,
Uh, that was always
a
it.
hundred percent.
Like I never wanted to buy a compressor pedal when I was a kid, like that's the most boring thing in the world. Now as a adult, I can appreciate a good compressor or a
Yeah.
line conditioner or something like that, but like no 17-year-old wants to buy a compressor,
No,
They want
you
to.
want to buy dirt pedals and fuzz pedals, and you just want more
Yeah,
destruction, more chaos on your board.
yeah, that's always it. And then yeah, luckily 17-year-olds aren't designing pedal boards too often, because oh my god, mine was, thank god for the multi-effects ME50, because honestly I should, if I was left to my own devices, it would have just been fucking white noise coming out of my pedal chain.
Yeah, seriously. I didn't even use a pedal chain. I went right into a Behringer V-tone,
mm,
just like a
mm.
solid state old Behringer through. I actually have the cab beside me. I still have. It's really old, but it did the job. It worked. So
Beautiful, man. Yeah, I think I think the mistakes that we made in finding our tone when we were younger, like, got us to where we are, right?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I didn't care much at the time for tone. It was dirty punk music and like hardcore stuff. But I'm realizing now, like I listen to it, I'm like, oh, like if I had the gear I have now,
yeah,
it sounds so good.
yeah. I mean, that was the thing when I was younger. Like, I didn't have much, if any, money to spend on gear, so it was like my Squire
Exactly.
Strat. I had a Jazz Master that I got, for my birthday one year. That was like still the nicest guitar I owned, to be honest.
Nice.
But I was playing whatever amp was currently not buzzing too much. Whatever guitar did like had a full set of strings on it, and like
Yeah,
a big muff.
whatever worked, whatever was playable at the
Yeah,
time to
and
get
like
you
we
going.
we didn't care too much about the tone, and it's funny because like looking back on it, there's you learn to play around your tone, and it was like the way that I was playing was totally because of the equipment I had, was because of the
Yep.
humbucker in my hot rodded Strat that I had, and I learned to
Well, exactly.
learned to
Yeah,
write
and it
around
won't.
how that pickup sounded, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, I almost feel like introducing too many tools into a young musician's mind is like can be dangerous. Like I remember I had a moment, this is
I'll get
totally
cluttered.
off topic, but I had this moment where I went to a show, this band I was playing with, it was a punk show, and this dude was playing with what I assume was his dad's rig. It had to have been, because it was this
Oh
like
wow. Old
dual
gear.
jet Gretsch, like beautiful
Oh wow.
$6,000 hollow body Gretsch guitar, and this like 1970s Vox AC30 amplifier, and he was just
Oh
playing,
wow.
and it was like this beautiful setup that was like none of us should have a rig this nice, and he was just kicking the shit out of it. He was just playing horrible, loud, shitty music out of this beautiful guitar, and I was just sitting there like, yeah, this isn't good. Like
Yeah,
someone
you
shit in
shouldn't
the
have that.
laundry. Yeah, like
Yeah.
dude needs to go
He
to a
probably
pawn
he probably
shop.
just like borrowed it without his dad knowing, you know, like just bringing it over to a friend to show a friend, go bring it to a show.
Yeah, it was
I think
misfire.
we have someone asking questions here.
Yeah, yeah, we've been
Well,
doing a bad job at moderating here. Forgive us. We don't know what we're.
yeah,
I
sorry
don't know
about
that
that.
we're in here, so.
Natty wants to know, do you make a multi-blended combo pedal? Example, like an overdrive delay together or a phaser fuzz overdrive?
So not yet. I've right now I like working on sort of like more utilitarian pedals. But like honestly, that's always something that's been in the back of my mind. I don't want to
Cool.
I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm working on creating something, a couple of pedals that are a little bit more modular in that aspect. Because there's some
Awesome.
great pairings out there, you know.
There really are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like you, for example, you break apart. I mean, you break apart the op amp Big Muff, and you got two ICs. One of them is handling basically compression, and the other one's handling the gain and clipping. So it's like a good pedal has multiple stages in it as it is.
Exactly. It goes through a lot to get that tone and that signal.
Yeah,
I just gotta ask you about
yeah,
this. Man, this is super cool. Literally, when I seen this, I thought it was a necklace, and then I realized that's a little PCB.
yeah. That's thanks, man. So I got
That's
to
so
admit,
cool.
I got that idea from. I mean, there's some awesome builders out there on Instagram that I'm happy to be like counted among. And I think it's Five Cats Pedals. He builds a lot of he does a lot of PCB boards, and he does like short runs and
Okay.
pedals. But he did something really similar I saw with a clipping stage. It was a pair of diodes that he had put on. I think it was a little key tag, and I was like, "That's fucking brilliant."
Yeah, it
Um,
really is.
yeah, so I took it a step further. That's a functional. So that actually is the same tone stack that's in the fuzz blender.
Amazing.
So yeah,
I want to get
yes.
around to building it, but I haven't had time yet. But yeah, when I seen that, because I completely spaced on it the first time I went through, and I was looking at it again, I was like, oh well, man, this is absolutely amazing. Like seriously, some of the best pedal candy. It's very
Well,
neat. I'm gonna get around to building it at some
yeah, I mean,
point.
like, so that's I always love the experience of like, the box candy, the manuals, the bags, all the extra stuff that always comes with pedals. So like, I mean, I definitely waste a lot of
Yeah,
time
box
and
skin.
a lot of my profits putting cool shit in cool boxes and things like that. But
It's neat. No, I love unboxing. Like some people again don't like it, but I personally really like I watched them before I even started doing this. So I started doing them when the pedals came in because you want to see, it's neat to see what comes with it and the bag and stuff. And
yeah.
your bags are amazing too, by the way.
Man.
Very
I
neat.
learned to sew just so I could make bags, and I'm waiting for a complaint about the bag because they're not.
Really?
I don't know. They're not. I'm not a seamstress. I'm not a seaman. That's not the.
They're well made, man. They are very well made. I love the look of them. Just it goes perfect with the pedal. It's the whole theme of the super cool pedals. I'm trying to look for it. I'm not sure where I put it, but
Oh, here I go.
very
But
cool.
it's funny. I actually, again, one of the stupid things that I do, attention to
Oh,
details. So I got the
yeah.
fabric is custom made.
I'm not-
I found an outfit online that'll print anything you want. So for each pedal there is a different fabric and a different bag
Oh,
for each pedal.
no way.
So the 800. Yeah, hold on one sec. I'll grab a.
Super cool. See again, there it is again. Super cool. Oh man, is that the new box candy? Yeah, the box candy is just fire with super cool pedals over here.
So yeah, I won't bore you with the whole story, but basically, I made a record a few years ago with a tape machine called Super Cool, and then that's when I needed a name for a pedal company. I was like, oh, cool. I was working on that tape at the time, and it was like, cool. So this is the bag for the 800. I don't know.
Oh, nice.
Barley and hops. I think
I like it.
I think it makes sense. This one's a little bit more on the nose. This is for the for the caffeine boosts.
Yep. Yeah. That's perfect. And you sew them yourself.
Yeah, I do. I got the fabric custom printed, and I sew those bags myself. So again,
that is super cool. I love the name. I love saying that because I have said it, like when I had the pedal, I said it out loud like 5 times. I was like, all right, like I gotta tell him how much I like his name. That's absolutely hilarious.
That's good, man. That makes me warm and fuzzy. I love those little details, and that's
yeah, right.
I usually get that feedback from people too. So I mean, it's nice. And part of that comes from my guilt of like, I'm fundamentally not an electrical engineer. So I want to try and make I want to make the pedal experience like as unique as possible and like as enjoyable as possible, because it's like, correct, you can go and buy an op amp Big Muff that can do some of the things that this can do, but you're not necessarily buying a super cool pedal because it's cheaper than buying the EHX, but the last thing I want to do is like, I'll never just straight up clone a pedal though either.
I get a lot of that from a lot of the builders. They don't want to just clone it, because a lot of people ask for that, but then like, it's not your own. You want to put your own mark on it, like your personal touch,
and
right?
There's nothing wrong with that either. Like I remember, so the first pedal I actually designed was an early version. It was called so this is an old enclosure, but this was I just called it the Super Cool Distortion. This is eventually what the 800 turned into, but this is kind of a ripped apart guts that I use for testing purposes now. But I designed that, and I had a friend of mine at a town worked or owns a guitar shop, and he was like, oh, I want to like sell a couple of these pedals in the stores. Yeah, sick. And I was talking to him, and I was like, I gotta tell you, I kind of feel like a bit of a fraud, because I'm not like, I didn't design this circuit. Like I based this off.
Oh yeah, a little.
And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, because the pedal industries never copied each other, like, because no one's ever fucking done that. And then I like started looking around the shop, and I was like, oh no, you're totally right. Like DOD or MXR ripped off DOD in the same fucking year. Like,
yeah. So, it's like, it's really hard to put a circuit out there, and then I'm not sure what it is. I don't think you can copyright it. I don't know how you go about doing it, because it's just out there, right?
You can't copyright circuits for whatever reason, which is, I guess, both makes sense and doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with cloning pedals, but at the same time, I think the only reason to fully clone a pedal is if there's a pedal that's out of print. So like, I love Josh and JHS pedals. I think one of the stories that he did is they did the legendary Klon Overdrive, which is just a fucking boost pedal. Honestly, I think it's a dumb pedal.
Oh yeah.
It went out of production, and they were, stupid.
The secret diodes, right? The secret diodes.
Germanium diodes, and guess what? You know what I have right here? I have 2 bags of germanium diodes. One of them that I spent $50 on to make sure that they were like proper, and this one I got off AliExpress. And guess which ones behave better?
AliExpress?
They're the fucking same thing. They're the same goddamn thing. We would love to believe that there's some kind of magic in these pedals, and there can be. But
there can be, but like,
it's not
I got this on Wish years ago. It's a Wish Klon. And the caps blew. I'm not sure what I did to it, but it got messed up somehow. So I took it apart, and I replaced some stuff. I didn't even put the correct caps in, but it works and it sounds amazing.
Good. And you know what?
Just beefy.
That's actually when cool shit starts happening. When like you don't know what you're doing and you start replacing values, and
just in the dark.
You find something new out of it, right? But
it's a little barkier.
The Klon is, I think, one of the only good reasons. Like, is a reasonable excuse to clone a pedal, because it's like, well, who's if you really want one, are you going to spend $900 on one and wait for 8 months? Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of pedals that end up like that. Like, I wouldn't go out and buy, what is that, Analog Man, I think it is, where you have to be on a list for like 5 years or something, and it's like a huge amount of money.
Or the Duke of Tone, I can't remember which one, but
yeah, and like you could just go, like Joyo has one for like $100. I know it doesn't sound the exact same, but come on, are you really gonna like wait 5 years? By the time you get it, you're gonna have a collection of other pedals that are better.
Yeah. So,
I'm not casting shade by any means. I guarantee it's an amazing pedal. It just seems like I don't know, a little much. Maybe it's just all a marketing thing to like get more pedals,
well, I mean,
more money.
It all depends. I mean, if you're looking to make money by making pedals, you better be selling thousands of them, because I'll tell you right now, it's not the most profitable thing in the world. Most of the profits go into, you know, developing and packaging and things like that. Yeah, of course. But
camel fabric.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a businessman, let me put it that way. I'm not good at running a business.
It's so good. The personal touches on your pedals are really good, though. Like, it's awesome, man. People should go and like buy them from you. Straight up, you're a great guy, and the personal touches with all of the small builders is just remarkable. Yeah, and that's what it is. I don't want to support these big companies, and like I know a lot of people don't want to, because again, you just get the same clone thing done over again, or you can buy a unique one.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, man, and like, yeah, it's funny. The concept of boutique has really changed in the last 10 years, because now, like, I fucking blew myself away. The first pedal that I built, I was like, oh my God, I just like made a thing. And
yeah,
like,
I built that.
Like, you can do that? And I think it's really interesting, like, how many builders there are out there. And like, how many resources, like Reddit's an awesome place. Like, I've learned so much through DIY pedal subreddit over there, and there's just an awesome resource that, like, there's no reason why, if you want to make yourself a clone, you know, you can learn it. The resources are there. You can figure out how to build it and how it works and everything.
Yeah, and YouTube too is your best friend. You can go on there, and well, that's how I started doing it. After I modded the Voodoo Octave, again, back to that. After I modded that, I was like, well, what else can I do? And I started looking up stuff, and I went down a loophole. I started spending all my money on, like, all this stuff. I have a huge box in the other room. The, like, pedal demos took off, so I didn't have time, but I was making a T-tone. I got a couple T-tone fuzz pedals from, like Amazon.
Yeah.
And they sound amazing. And I was just the same thing. I was like, holy crap, like, that sounds absolutely massive. And then I started looking up the diagrams, and I was going to build one myself.
Yeah. It's so I kind of, I'm realizing, because I've never really talked about it out loud too much, I've made some promises to myself when I, like, decided to start building pedals or, like, selling them. And one of them was, I am ironically not a pedal collector, because I like cigarettes. Like, I'll fucking get addicted, and we all know those dudes. Like, there's nothing wrong with pedal collecting, but man, I can't do it, man. I know me. I will cascade into the dark realm, and my whole entire apartment will be filled. And
that's what's happening here. I just, everything's being overwhelmed with gear.
Nothing wrong with that, but
the wife isn't too fond of the amount of room we're losing with all the gear, but it's all right.
So I promised myself that, like, if I want a pedal, I have to build it. Ooh. So I have a lot of one-offs of pedals that, like, I've built just for myself. But what I'm slowly finding is that, like, I'm replacing my own pedal board with super cool pedals, which is like, hey, that's kind of fucking cool, because I've always I want the pedals to be, like, used, you know? And, like, I want them to be like replacing, you know, pedals that people don't love on their board, and putting that and finding good sounds. And, like, my goal is to stay on a pedal board more than anything. And it's funny, I've already like discontinued a couple of pedals because it's like, yeah, they weren't as interesting, and I found that people either weren't buying them or they got.
Okay, so when the ones don't like pop off to say, you kind of just like archive them and move on to something new. Will you ever bring them back?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Like I don't want to let like any market dictate like what I'm doing
Yeah,
by any means, but of
100%.
course, but if people want something, then yeah, then I can sell it, and that basically I can make more money to build more pedals with. And honestly, the only goal that I ever had with this is to pay for the hobby of building pedals, and
Yeah,
I've done that. So I mean, I can keep building pedals and working on things and tinkering, and it's not coming out of my pocket anymore, which is awesome.
perfect.
Uh,
Yeah, no, that's the dream. Well, at least to have like the steady flow, at least so you can build stock and have it like going
yeah,
on, right?
well, that's exactly it. But the problem is every time I can't stop designing circuits and tinkering and building, and that's the problem. Is I have too many
Full time.
projects going on the go all the time,
Yeah,
which is fine, but also like I'm just driving myself nuts. It's gonna get to the point eventually. Like I would love to, take like have some other employees, and things like that. But
okay.
as it stands right now, like it's simpler to. I mean, I don't charge taxes on my pedals. I'm not paying taxes on any of this. I'm not making. The tax man won't be knocking out my door anytime soon in terms of the money that's coming in. It's not a problem, but like, yeah, I would love help. So
Yeah,
part of the thing that I've been spinning with a couple of friends of mine is to turn it into almost more of a collective, and
and
to
try
like,
and open it up,
yeah,
eh?
open it up. And it's like right now I'm, again, my weakest point is the electrical engineering. And it's like, cool, I would love to have someone on board who knows what they're doing more. And sure, it still would still fall under the super cool brand, but this is their pedal, like
Okay,
all
yeah.
the proceeds or whatever, and their name's right on the front of it or whatever it is. And I
Whatever
kind of and I
they want to call it, or would you give them like the art right or the name right to it, like to name the pedal?
we don't. I don't know. The law is the thing that's eluding all of this still, but like
Yeah.
I think I think it'd be a lot of fun because to kind of open it up and make it more of a collective eventually. So that's kind of one of the ideas that I have. But
Nice. Right on.
we'll see what happens though. Do you mind? I would love to take a moment and introduce the newest pedal
Yeah,
in the lineup.
100%. The new announcement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
perfect.
we uh we talked a little bit about the 77 fuzz blender and what worked on
Yep.
this guy and the history and where it came from, and uh I really love this pedal, and honestly I've been really struggling with the price point of my own pedals because frankly I undercharge for what they cost me, but I don't
Yeah.
want to charge as much
It's
as I
hard to
do
find
charge,
the right price, eh? Like,
yeah, it's super. It's hard to, man. So what I was always I wanted to hit a lower price point on the 77 fuzz blender, but I just
all
couldn't
right.
do it because honestly, like they're pricey. I'm using a nearly extinct transistor in this guy that's getting more and more expensive and harder to find.
Oh no.
So what I decided to
Yeah.
do is take what I really loved and what people loved about the 77
Okay.
fuzz blender
Okay.
and strip it down and offer a more focused and smaller form factor and a lower price point of the 77 fuzz blender, and that is the 77 fuzz light.
Very
So
nice.
which is funny because it seems like this could have been the first version of what the 77 fuzz blender was supposed to be, because at first appearance it seems
Yeah.
like cool, it just looks like an op amp big muff, like it feels like I've done a roundabout way of cloning a pedal that's already good, but this is actually really unique, and this actually offers a couple things that the 77 fuzz blender doesn't. So first
Oh wow.
glance here, we took the blend knob is out because as
Gone.
awesome as it is,
Yep.
that started as something for bassists more so, and I even
Yeah.
found
All right.
myself like the more I used that pedal, the more I was really just diming out the blend anyway. So I went, okay, so we'll kick that out. And then the other thing is I got rid of the variable tone stack. So
Okay. So what's it on?
this is on this is the mid boosting tone stack. Okay.
All right.
So this guy is now more. This is less like the op amp Big Muff. It's very similar to that topology, but now it has that more mid range, like cranked overdrive, cranked like amp head
so
sound.
It's still a fuzz pedal,
Yeah.
but more with more of the mid end on it.
Yeah. So essentially, a more. My thing is, I've always thought like fuzz pedals sound great in your apartment, but they don't sound great in a live setting or when you're jamming.
Yeah.
So like that's really what I wanted to solve with this guy, and really distill the design down to like smaller form factor, a nice lower price point on this guy. Like I'm gonna introduce this guy in, I think, at like 150, 160 versus the like almost $200 of the 77 Fuzz blender. And I'm literally just able to do that because there's less component count. It's a little bit more simplified.
Excellent. Can you hold that up?
Yeah, of course. So that guy there, and and it's based off the old 70s. The design is based off the old 70s Camel lights that were all blue.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the full body, full flavor, right?
Exactly.
And then that's the light there.
And now I'm getting weird naming conventions like the 77 Fuzz Light. If you don't know what the Fuzz blender is, the Fuzz Light doesn't really sit in context, but whatever.
Yeah, it does seem like this was the second pedal you made. It seems like that would be the first one, and then you came out with the bigger, more advanced one.
That's what I mean. It's kind of been a bit of a roundabout to get to this one, but I've been honestly, I hate to say it, I've knocked my fuzz blender off the board for this guy because of the size.
Oh wow!
And this is most of the settings that I was using most of the time anyway on the fuzz
All right,
blender.
yeah.
Because I think I like having the option of the variable tone stacks, like awesome, but I don't personally like the scoop. I put that in there as, you know, it's great to record with, but not necessarily in that live set.
It's nice to have, but it's not essential.
Yeah. So now one of the other unique things here is I don't think I'm gonna advertise this. I think I'm gonna keep it as a bit of an Easter egg feature. But we were talking about modding circuits earlier, and happy accidents, and I kind of had one with this guy. I was messing around with the diodes, so I've actually got the back of this guy off here. So a lot of people, I did a post earlier today, and a lot of people instantly recognized the topography as the op amp Big Muff because of how many diodes are on it. That's classic op amp Big Muff.
Yeah. That's fun. That's the fuzziness.
So I was messing around, and I actually forgot to populate one of the diodes in this guy, and noticed that it had a really interesting sound to it. And then I kind of started reverse engineering and figuring out what was going on there. And basically, by removing one of the diodes, you're turning it into an asymmetrical clipping stage, where versus symmetrical. But the effect, I can show you actually. So the effect is actually really dope.
Can we have a sound clip of that?
Yes. So here is this is the sound of the pedal on its own.
Beautiful.
Nice mid-range.
Yeah, it has a very nice tone to it, man. Very nice.
So this is what I've done is there is a dip switch on the inside. Dip switches are really polarizing to a lot of people.
Secret dip switch.
I did not want to put this as an external option, but if you flip the dip switch, you turn on asymmetrical clipping on this, and you get this really gnarly gated and more transistor style fuzz.
Oh, that's so cool.
So you get more of that fuzz thing, like that Velcro really hard attack fuzz sound that honestly I haven't actually seen this particular mod done to the op amp. So I'm kind of proud of it because it's a pretty interesting, unique sound that you can get out of that.
I love the sound. Yeah, it is unique. I love the fact that you're going to keep it as an Easter egg and not really announce it, maybe put it in the manual or something to let them know.
So I put it in the manual, and as a reward for anyone that wants to read the manual.
Yeah.
And the phrasing I've used is that, like, if you ever get bored of this pedal, open it up, flip the dip switch, and you have a new pedal. Because
There you go.
the behavior is pretty different from the regular topology. But like, I was actually debating making that the sound of this pedal, but I didn't want to complicate
Go
things.
with the original sound, and then if they want, they can get it all freaky,
Yeah, where
right?
I was like, oh, I'll make a different version of the pedal. It's like, then I have like 3 fucking versions
Well,
of the same pedal.
there you go. Yeah. I did end up finding the Easter egg on this guy after you had mentioned it, and I took a good look. I'm not gonna say anything, but that's awesome.
Hey, you can here show the Easter egg. I'm proud of all the little Easter eggs and all the little tiny details I put into these.
Okay,
guys.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to see them in the light.
I'll show you.
If you notice.
Yeah. So the clue is for this guy on the manual, in tiny little writings down there, it says, "Have you found the Bean Man in the desert?" And there he is. He's hidden in the gloss layer. So it's just gloss. He's a mirage. Yeah.
And that was another amazing personal touch, because when you said that, I was like, well, what's he talking about? And I looked at it, I was like, again, super cool, man. Super cool.
Thanks. I like nerding out with those silly little details and Easter eggs. I spend too much time on them.
Easter eggs are absolutely amazing. They're really cool to have, and especially for collectors and like pedal enthusiasts and stuff like that. Even like the sign stuff. What does Earthquaker do? Every now and then you'll get a doodle.
Yeah.
By the builder or something. Like, it's just small stuff like that really, it's like above and beyond, and it's just awesome. Really personal touch to it. Super cool.
Yeah, it's fun, man. But yeah. So this guy's out. I just got to push a button, and he's going to be available for sale like starting this weekend. I'm actually really excited about this guy. Like, I love the 77 Fuzz Blender, but I think this guy. I'm really happy to have brought the design and the basic sound down to a lower price point. That was my biggest.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take as much real estate on your pedal board, because once you get all the pedals and you're getting your sound and you really like the sound of the 77 Fuzz Blender, but it's taking up too much room, you can just put that in. And I'm assuming it's the same size as like.
Yeah, it's a 1590, so it's the same size as as those guys. Yeah.
The Flanders.
Awesome,
yeah.
Awesome builder, by the way.
Yeah, Sparkbox Effects from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is a fun pedal. I had to get it. That's my favorite episode of The Simpsons.
Stupid,
there. So.
Sexy Flanders.
Yeah, stupid, sexy Flanders. Yeah, exactly. Great reverb on it.
Yeah. You can tell we're 90s kids, eh?
Yeah, seriously. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really good to have you on, man, and I love the fact that you're releasing that pedal. Hold it up again. I want to see it one more time. Show everybody one more time.
So I actually have to thank Reddit on the design on this guy, too, because I was really back and forth with a lot of things. I had a few prototypes, and they helped some of the
nice.
breathers over at Reddit gave me some, I polled them about the designs, and I kind of let the majority help decide some of the design aspects on this guy. But yeah, I like it. Because again, I spend too much time worrying about you have no idea how many different knobs this pedal had on it, like before I finally
I like the 3 knobs, man. It's basic. It's what you need, and it's the best parts of your opinion of the pedal that you needed, right? So like it's what you wanted. I'm curious to try it. I might have to grab one off you at some point.
Yeah, we'll see if we can we'll see how it does. We might be able to get one, man. I
100%
appreciate your support, man. I mean, that's the nice thing though, is like you have this pedal already.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm gonna have some more demos up of the pedal too. I'm just going in full circle. I have a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah,
but it's great. I do really love this pedal, and that dude hiding there.
You've got some pretty awesome tones out of that thing. Like I'm a closet metalhead. But like, my guitars are like single coil Jaguars and Jazzmasters and whatnot. Like, I don't have a metal rig. My rig is tube deluxes and things like that, like that old vintage gear. So it's really cool to see what you do with that pedal, because like, yes, I know what it sounds like on a Jazzmaster and a rod, but like, I've never tested it on that like sick ass rig that you have,
Yeah, well, today I was running it through both. I actually just got it set up. I got an ABY the other day. So we run the Hughes and Kettner through the 4x12 by Behringer and the Super Crush through the new endorsement by Ward cabinets. Just massive sound because the Black Spirit's really crisp. It's a lot more high and mids, and then the Ward and the Orange is like really low. So the combination is just
it's wild.
crazy.
Every time I've tuned in, my mind has changed as to which head I like more. It's like
I know.
they're wildly different.
They really are. And like that's the thing, because I've been using this as a pedal platform the whole time. Well, since my 5150 went down, and like I just keep it on the clean channel, and I have everything at noon.
Yeah.
Like the tune knobs at noon. And then once I tried it with this, I was like, oh well, all the pedals sound completely different. Like absolutely a world of difference because of how low the orange is, and then just how amazingly different it is. I am going to get some tube amps on at some point, and we're going to put them up to the test, because everybody's like, oh, I can tell the difference between solid state and stuff with my ears. So we're going to like put a little cloth over it, and I'm going to use an ABY to go between. Just see.
I was going to say, I mean, you can get a head, or like you should just get like a little like Princeton or something. Like just get a little, I don't even think the Princeton's too, but like get a little like Fender, like a vintage one, and like I don't know if you can ABC through an amp setup, but like that'd be pretty cool. But that would be. But that was one of the things that I was super stoked on working with you with, because I know that you're pushing these pedals in a way that like I don't typically use the pedals that way for like that basically with good amplifiers. I'm used to running shit. I design pedals for amps that sound like shit, like Fenders, which are great in their own right, but like they suck. That's
amazing though, because if it sounds good through an amp that's not like the super high quality or whatever it is, then it sounds good on the mid-range stuff, and then it sounds amazing on the high range stuff. It's just you're encompassing everything. It's a really good idea.
Well, that's it.
I think that when you're testing pedals, to throw it through like an old PV Rumble or something, or like
exactly. I hope that some 17-year-old kid picks up a super cool pedal and is not disappointed with it the same way that I was a fucking big muff that I spent all my allowance on,
Yeah, I highly doubt they'd be disappointed with it. There is so much. There's a world of tones in that. Like, seriously, with the tar and the smoke just going in between them and pulling the smoke back a bit, you can get it, like, really deep.
Yeah.
That really deep, fuzzy sound. And then with the smoke coming in, like, the mids, you can just... It ends up being a distortion. It really does.
Something that I've been falling in love with, to accidentally talk about my own pedals for a second, something that I've actually really been falling in love with on the sound of these guys is exactly what you said. Like, if you roll the tar back, which is essentially the sustain and gain state, like primary gain stage, if you get it at about like 3/4, you roll off a lot of treble. I've noticed.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah.
And so then you are able to like up the tone stacking and get a little bit more brightness out of the tone stack without it being like quite as harsh, depending on how you've got your amp set. But like, it sounds really conceited, but like I play my own pedals all the time, and the more I do, like I'm still finding little settings on them that I had never found before on them. So like, I mean,
the best thing you got to do is play. Like if you have a board, like you were saying, you have a board with your pedals on it. Obviously, like they sound good. You know what I mean? They have a worthy spot on your board, and it's amazing. They really do sound good.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. But I mean, again, that's where this guy came from. I took what I liked about the big one and just turned it into the small one. I'm gonna have.
So what pedals do you have in your store? Sorry to interrupt you there. You have the 77 Fuzz Blender, the new Fuzz Light. What is the 40 ounce one? Is that just a boost, or what is that?
So here, I'll grab this guy. Take it off my board for you. This guy is it's funny, I always end up with like B stock on my board. So this is a silver version. Most of the
amazing.
The gold version is really my go-to, but I've got a couple of silvers still kicking around. And
that's my youth, man. That's hilarious.
I know, the 40s, man. I still can't get enough. But so this guy's actually this is an overdrive. So this is this guy's based off of overdrive distortion. So it's a cross between a DOD 250 and an MXR distortion plus.
Oh wow, nice.
Without getting into the history too much, it was really up for debate who came up with, like, which came first, the DoD 250 or the MXR Distortion Plus, because they're both
Very
very, very similar in topology. So this was actually the first pedal that I designed, although the second pedal that I released under the Supercool brand, and it was originally that guy that I showed you earlier.
Oh, it was originally that guy. All right.
It was originally that guy, but basically it's it's a really big boost with a clipping stage on it, essentially. So this and
Awesome.
this mine has a variable clipping stage. It's kind of similar to the variation that you get on this, only this is for tone, this is for clipping. So
Does it go between symmetrical and asymmetrical still?
no, it goes
Or is
between
it soft and hard?
this on one setting, so the 0.01% is a pair of LED diodes, which are really warm sounding, and
right.
don't clip as much. And then over here is a set of 1N4148 silicon diodes, which are like really harsh. And if you really blast them, you can get into like fuzzy tones. But
sweet, I love it.
Yeah, but it still has like, this has like no sustain to it whatsoever in the same context as like most fuzz pedals.
Yeah.
So this is a really dynamic pedal.
I find a lot of the overdrives end up being like, I can't even call them overdrives. I don't know anymore. I thought I understood about pedals, but the more pedals I play, there's overdrives that just completely breach into distortion territory, but like they can get that perfect little bit of dirt for country, but you can go over the top.
I think
the fun,
it's honestly like the more I learn about the actual engineering of them, the more it's like, no, overdrive and distortion, like they're almost interchangeable. I think the way that I kind of understand it, or my philosophy, is like a distortion uses a lot of hard clipping versus an overdrive you're usually feeding into something like a transistor or an op amp, and you're overdriving it to get the clipping. So the sound can be really, really similar, and it's like, I don't know. There can be differences. Like the only true overdrive, 100%. The only overdrive, in my opinion, that's really true is overdriving your amplifier. And that
overdrive on it.
Yeah, like, well, no, if you push like a boost pedal into your amp head, and you start distorting, that's overdrive. So
yeah, once you hit the breakup, in the headroom, once you push the amp loud enough that it just does it itself without adding the mass amounts of gain.
Yeah. So like that's what overdrive pedals are based on. They're trying to simulate overdriving the amp head, right? But it's like, well, if you like that sound, just overdrive the amp head and you'll get that. Like, it's funny enough, like, so the little caffeine boost, I don't have one on me right now, but that little caffeine boost, I fell in love with that stupid little circuit because it makes my Fender amp sound good, because all it's doing is blasting the shit out of it so that it's overdrive. And
it's making it hit that fucking headroom, or making it think it's hitting that headroom, So like you're getting that perfect tone come through right on. Is it a little tube amp?
What I've got a little a deluxe reverb tone master. I don't know if you can see that, but basically, it's an emulation. Well, not quite emulation, but it's like a digital modeling version of the deluxe. It's nice because I can simulate lower wattage, so I can still play it at full like max watt, but it has an ability to play it at like 1/8 of a watt output simulation, so I can still play it at quiet levels, which is
perfect. Yeah,
in my apartment building, when I'm not, I don't have to play a gig with a bunch of people. But yeah, and that's it. Like where one of my favorite things to do is actually driving. I don't want to get too off topic, but I really want to get you one of these 800s and a caffeine boost at some point.
Yeah, I would love to have them, man. I really look forward to your pedals. Like this one blew me away when I first pulled it out and plugged it in. And like the first thing I like to do when I get pedals, fuzz pedals, really, because I always put an overdrive in front of them or behind them, right, to drive it.
Yeah.
Just to get I like to make them extreme distortion, just chaos. And this thing with that blend knob, I can dial it in wherever I want. It can be absolute chaos, or it can be like just subtle and kind of come in the background and like.
Hey, like I said, it's about like you want to push a button and have a bunch of noise come out, right?
Yeah, and it's creative. Like I keep going back to it, and that's the best thing I like about pedals. It's you keep going back to them. It's not going to come off the board, or even if it does,
That's it.
you'll bring it back out and you can get a whole new tone out of it and just all that stuff.
Here, I'm just gonna grab a pedal. Hold on, I'll be right back here.
Yeah, definitely.
So, this guy. So again, this is one of my favorite little pedals. My least selling pedal is a boost pedal, and it's funny because it's like a boost pedal is my prescription to people. It's like, oh, I don't like my rig, I want to get a new pedal. It's like, do you have a boost pedal?
Get a boost.
The answer is usually no.
Yep.
It's like, get a fucking boost pedal, because you honestly don't know what you can do with one of these until you have one on your pedal.
Yeah. It
Like,
really brings out the voice of the amp. Like, it really does.
So, I mean, you literally take your whole chain away and just put a boost pedal with a bunch of headroom like this guy. So this is a JFET. It's called I overnamed this. It's the super cool caffeine boost classic JFET, because I actually have an op amp based boost that I've discontinued because, again,
okay,
people didn't want it. So I was like, okay, fine, I won't make it anymore. But this guy uses a single transistor as a boost to give like 26 dB of headroom. And if you just smash your amplifier with this, you'll make it sound good. You'll get this super transistor overdrive.
I'd really like to try that on the rig here. Send it through both of the amps at the same time through the ABY and just see what happens. I mean, gonna have to get my earplugs out.
I mean, those amps are already smashed, so I don't know what I want to know what it does to it. But like, this is where I think the concept of an overdrive pedal came from, because what I like to do is I like to put the boost in front of a dirt pedal, and then you overdrive this pedal when you mix. So I usually keep this guy on a relatively like clean low drive setting, almost as an always on. Sometimes at the end of the chain, so it's like a nice dirt pedal. And then when I want to like get like a more distortion sound, turn on the boost, which is in front of it, and then you're blasting the op amp of this guy, and you're overdriving this pedal.
You're just pushing all that power into the 808, eh?
Yeah, and
or into the super cool.
I don't want to reduce it too much, but like when you're talking distortion, that's what you're doing. You're talking about just smashing gain stages against one another. And
exactly,
So like I've actually I've done the opposite too, where I've had this guy like maxed out at distortion, and then one of the things that I did on this guy is unity is at 12. So you can actually go quieter than your chain. So if as a utilitarian purpose, if you find that your chain is like too hot and you don't know where to turn it down, you can just you can throw in this guy and just lower it down a little bit.
That's really neat. I like that.
So I use it to tame this guy. You can like max out your drive and your clipping stage, put this guy in front of it, and basically use it as like a variable clipping foot switch to turn on, like to control how much of the level you're actually putting into the drive. So someone earlier was asking about modular pedals. That's actually something that I do want to integrate. I want to do an integrated boost and distortion pedal that where you can change the sequence of where the drive and where the boost is, so how you're using it. But I haven't. It's not the most original thing, but it's about trying to get this much footprint into something smaller and a little bit more cohesive too.
Yeah.
So
one thing that I'm doing, it's kind of a secret, but I'll kind of announce it right now on live. But I'm doing a collaboration with Dirtmonger, who's also a Canadian builder. He built the Leviathan here. This absolute monster of a pedal.
Yeah.
So that's with the 64 clipping options you can go through and everything. And he's going to help me build my idea of what I want for a pedal. And it's going to be a small release of about 20 pedals. And it is going to be a clone into a fuzz. That's just like the clone with the knob, so you can push the mids on it as much as you want. But also what he suggested is to put a switch on it to flip it. So you can do that. You can switch, because some people want the fuzz first. And so that's still kind of a secret, but gonna have the prototype at some point in the summertime, and that's gonna be absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's a really cool idea, because I know a lot of people use the Klon as like a way to push mids, or like
the other. It's any overdrive, but I use Klon a lot because that's what clone. People just Jones that shit, especially after JHS and all the hype and stuff, like
Yeah.
the special goop circuit.
I'm gonna say this because I want to like tie myself down. I will never make a clone. I don't want
there you
to ever
go.
make a clone. I hope I never make a clone. If future Jamie ever makes a clone, I don't know. Something bad has to happen to that dude because like it might have to be. Because like
what if there's just such a high hype for a super coolest clone?
Then I'll build something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a wonderful problem to have, but like
that's true, yeah. Good problem to have, but you're not gonna cave, you're not gonna do it.
I've only played one once. I don't want to mention.
Okay.
I won't knock any brands. Won't mention whose it was. But I was really excited about it because I hadn't actually played one, and I've looked at the circuit, and it's like, dude, there's some crazy engineering. The charge pump, the 18-volt charge pump.
Yeah. And you found out it's just a boost fucking pedal.
The parallel gain and clean signals with that double gain pod. It's like, this is a crazy engineered pedal. It doesn't look like anything that anyone's ever built before or since. So post pandemic, I finally got the opportunity to sit down at a guitar shop and play some pedals that I'd been learning about.
Nice.
And I plugged in this clone with like a nice jazz master. And I was like, this is gonna sound like so good. And I just went, this is a boost pedal. It's just a boost. Like it's a really
you can crank the tone and the gain, and it does kind of give it a nice voice. But again, I just use it to boost other things boost it with something.
I think the power to it is what it does to other pedals.
Yeah.
And what other pedals can do to it. And like that's very often the case with a lot of pedals. Like I would never claim that this sounds great on its own. No, it does literally nothing to your signal but raise it.
But that's what it's supposed to do, right? That's its job. Yeah, exactly. You're not saying there's a magic diode in there.
I did brag about the like going extinct transistor that's in it, but that's more so because I'm just
that's legit though. That's actually what's happening. Like it's happening with a lot of stuff. I found a lot of people are there's op amps and everything that are just going out that people aren't making anymore, and it's just kind of like a rush to find what's going to work in that pedal in that scenario, or else you have to build a new pedal, whole new design.
So on that, I have had in the works a germanium tone bender build for like ages now. Because I'm actually building. So I'll try and cut this down to a short story, but one of these guitar shops, legendary guitar shop, Paul's Boutique in Toronto here. I made friends with those guys, and one of the dudes there really he asked me like, do you make a germanium tone bender? And I was like, I don't. Do you want one? He's like, yeah, I love one. I was like, okay, cool, I'll build one. And what I thought was going to be like a pretty simple build has literally turned into like almost a year now of like on again, off again development because I want to do a charge pump to it. I've bought about 500 different germanium transistors from different sources, and
looking for the right one.
And I've been trying to match the proper like gain and HFE and leakage to this, and it's like, and I'm looking at it going like, I have the components. If germanium transistors weren't an issue, I could build a whole batch of like 100 of these fucking pedals. But right now, I can only build one good one. So those rapidly going extinct components, it's like, dude, germanium transistors are the only magic element in a pedal that people can claim, and because it is, and it's because they're rare, and it's because they behave poorly. Like they're bad, broken pieces of shit transistors that were designed like they were some of the first piece of electronics equipment that were devised. So they were not good, and they're not efficient, and that's what makes them perfect for the application of, fuzz faces and whatnot. But like, I want to do that pedal, but honestly, it might end up just being like the one for Paul's Boutique. Or like
if it's hard to find,
and
all this stuff, you can't really release a fleet of them if you can't make the fleet of them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I was this other builder that I follow, not Union transistors, Dominion. So really, really cool. It's
Okay.
Canadian guy, Dominion. He does a fuzz face that's dual silicon and germanium transistors. It literally switches the entire circuit between a silicon or germanium. And the purpose of that is because germanium transistors literally change their behavior based on temperature. So it's like, if you're at a cold gig or you're playing a festival, you probably don't want to use the germanium, your tone bender or face.
I've heard about that. I've heard of people putting a pedal in the fridge. Is that what they put in the fridge? And they're supposed to get a different sound? So that's real? You
because
actually get a
they found that
sound.
the germanium transistors have a different leakage at like when they're freezing cold. So that's a legitimate thing. And again,
I thought that was a myth.
I don't like pushing that kind of mythology, but with germanium, it's like, no, it's true. It's this.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
But so
there you go.
He actually just posted a video today that if you guys are interested, you should check out. Talking about why I think he's ramping up to say that he's not going to be building these germanium fuzz faces anymore because he did the math. He showed the math. He's like, if I spend $2,500 on germanium transistors, I can build like 20 pedals.
Oh,
and like in the end, by the time you trickle down what's usable and everything, and like
that's really unfortunate too. That out of the whole batch, there's like maybe like 40% of them that will actually be like feasible or usable kind of parts.
So frankly, like I want to do a germanium tone bender, but what would happen is I would literally be charging way more than I want to, and I probably will. I'll probably do a short run and like sell them for like $400 a piece, and I'm gonna make them really unique, and I'm gonna make them, obviously hand built like everything, but like do something different with the design. And I actually want to pull in like a couple of my favorite stores in Toronto to like work and sponsor it maybe, and like kind of do some kind of cross promotional thing and make something a little bit more unique. So like, you're gonna get
100%.
You're gonna get an awesome sounding pedal, but it's working towards something a little bit bigger, like contribute some donations towards Ukraine, because frankly, that's where I'm getting a lot of these germanium transistors anyway.
A lot of stuff's built over in Ukraine, and like I know there's a big problem with tubes. That's one of the reasons why when my 5150 went down, I actually didn't repair it, and I didn't buy a new tube amp because with everything that was going on at the time, I was like, I can't afford to keep buying tubes. And it was 3 months in like my studio, like right here, and I was playing and it just turned off. Just like brand new amp, just tubes turned off.
That's why I have now. So that's why I have my man Keith Richards is in the chat there. How you doing, man? He's an awesome dude. He was asking earlier about the Tone Master Fender Deluxe.
I was gonna bring that up, but it went by, and I kind of got carried away. Okay. I'm doing a horrible job at moderating.
So that's actually one of the reasons I bought the Tone Master, because it's I don't want to say emulation, because emulation is a dirty word. But it's super accurate in emulating the original tube deluxes. And like I have my other deluxe that I had for years and years would just if I plugged it into like a shitty power strip at a gig, it would sound shitty the next day, like, and like the amount of times that I replaced the tubes in that fucking amp just drove me crazy. So like last summer, I think it was, I just fell in love with this amp, and I didn't even notice that it was a Tone Master. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? It doesn't have tubes and it has variable like wattage output. I was like, done. Just bought that amp like right away. And like, no, it's a super sick amp. Tubes, again, they sound great for a lot of the same reasons that germanium does, but they're super unreliable. Unfortunately,
they really
going to be the nature of them.
And with prices of tubes going up, them being harder to get, like I even went for a birthday present. I got myself the Hughes and Kenner Black Spirit here, and I was thinking about getting the Marshall Origin. I'm still going to pick one up at some point, but I'm really glad I went with this, because I turn these things on and off all fucking day long, and like I don't want to risk blowing a tube because I have to like go and take a piss or
Yep.
something like that and have to turn it off or run to the store.
Yeah.
But this comes with the cat sagging or the sagging knob,
Oh.
which is incredible. And I didn't really think anything of it, but it's supposed to emulate the tubes when it gets into that headroom. And I've really been like, you turn it up to 7 and it starts making the tone, you know what I mean? It doesn't sound so, I don't know, bionic, I guess. I don't know how to put that.
Yeah. No, that's a crazy sick head, man.
Oh, it's super nice, yeah.
Yeah. But we were saying put the tone master. Oh yeah. Anyway, regardless, it's a sick amp. But yeah, most of the problems with oh, I know what I was gonna say. So
Yeah, sorry.
germanium transistors and coming out of Ukraine, because you noticed this too, because a lot of tubes were coming out of Ukraine.
Yep.
I actually have a suspicion, and I might be talking out of my ass here, but here's my theory: is that when the war started, or when they were preparing for the war in Ukraine, they started going through a lot of the surplus depots to obviously find armaments and things that to get as much supplies as they possibly could. And I think they found a lot of stashes of military grade germanium transistors, among other things. Because if you go on eBay right now, there's a fuckload of germanium transistors that have popped up out of nowhere, and they're all coming out of Ukraine. So that isn't when I. It's a weird timing, and it's honestly like a really mixed bag of what you get when you order them, because they've been sitting around in an army surplus depot for 50 years. Probably, right?
You're just getting random stuff. Yeah, you don't know like
germanium is already questionable as it is, but it's like they've just been sitting there for 50 years or however long.
Yeah, even more questionable now. Now like your percentage of them working has gone down even farther.
Yeah. So and like that was why I feel almost bad buying them, because I don't want to be like exploitative, and like cool, these germanium transistors exist because of the war in Ukraine. Like that's fucked. So that's my original idea was I really wanted to get build this tone bender and be like, yeah, I'm gonna donate the money to but like haven't gotten that off the ground unfortunately yet.
You could build, how many of them do you have? How many could you build?
Right now, I just got another batch of them, so like I haven't measured them yet, because part of the process of those germanium transistors, you have to go through and measure the leakage and the gain, label them out, and then even that is only a scientific route. You really have to stock it and test every single one versus one another. So
yeah, exactly, just to make sure, because you really don't want to waste your time setting everything up and then finally like troubleshooting it just to realize you should have done it before.
I have one good sounding one, and that's the circuit I showed you. Like this guy sounds great, and it's I mean, like, this is a tone bender. I wanted to recreate the like MK1 tone bender as much as possible, but I used a charge pump in this guy, so it can be used with a standard 9-volt negative and daisy chain, because that's one of the things. Like I didn't want to, because a lot of those old pedals like fuzz faces, they don't play nice with other pedals. But like I wanted, if I'm gonna release the pedal, it has to play nice with other pedals.
Yeah,
but I've got this.
It has to get along with other ones.
So I've got this one that sounds good, and like I'm afraid to go any further with it for the time being because of how temperamental germanium is.
If you do make a couple of them, you should, like, you know how you're going to donate it to Ukraine or whatever, you should like do the art kind of that style, maybe have a raffle or something and like spread the word, get your name out there, and like
I'm thinking of doing a collaboration eventually. So that's one of the things that I promised myself I'm going to complete it in the summer, that project, mostly because I just want to wrap it and do something cool with it. But yeah, other than that, I got some. Actually, I'll give you one really quick sneak peek on this little guy. So this is based off the orange compressor. Orange compressor. Because again, I looked at my pedal and I went, okay, what's on my pedal that isn't super cool yet? It's like my compressor. It's like, okay, I got it.
That's one pedal I don't have yet either. It's a compressor. I'm in the market for one of those. So I'm gonna check that out.
I got this guy. This guy is the prototype. This is actually my first foray into surface mounts as well.
Okay.
So hand populating these, like I have like a surface mount SMD oven that I bought because I want to get into that, because it gives you the option of getting like, smaller builds. And I like, Honestly, I'm torn. I love the challenge of building like surf like these tiny
I
1590 pedals.
noticed a lot of your pedals. They're in the smaller builds,
Oh,
and like I tried, man. I had a kit. It was the small mouse or something from Build Your Own Clone or
yeah.
whatever. Man, I got it populated. I could not for the life of me put it
Dude,
in that damn tiny
it's
enclosure.
the engineering is like it's so challenging and it's so much fun. Like for example, so the other pedal that I'm actually hoping that this is going to be the next release. I'm quite sure.
Okay.
This is it's a chorus pedal. So it's a chorus based off of the EHX small clone. But I'm
Nice.
implementing a lot of the popular mods that are in it.
Okay.
That people have been doing over the years. But anyway, this is built for a 1590A, and it's like look at how spaced out everything is. And it's like
Yeah.
it's fine.
You
But
could squeeze it.
I'm sure I could get this smaller. So like I would love to build do a 1590A SMD version of like a small clone. It would be just for the challenge, you know?
Just for the challenge alone, you like punishment. You like the punishment.
Well, the bad news is I've got some critical failures on this circuit right now, and the problem with surface mount is it's really fucking hard to troubleshoot.
Yeah.
So this guy might be
Oh,
on
100%.
So this guy might be on the bench for a little while, but I really want to get this guy out. I'm trying to fast track this guy because I think a compressor is again a pedal that like everyone needs. You don't have a compressor. I want to make a really good sounding compressor that's like one knob, like don't fuck with it.
Yep.
This is your
Everyone
compressor.
needs one. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you very much for coming on. This is going to be all the time we have. I'm going to have to wrap it up. But amazing again. Show the light. Show the super fuzz light, man. That's sweet.
So this guy, I'm gonna press the button right when I get off this call, and we'll this guy's gonna be for sale up there. I've only got a few for the time being, but I'm gonna make a bigger batch later on. So if you don't have one of the fuzz blender and you're on a budget, that's the guy to grab for sure. Thanks so much for having me, man. This is it's been a blast, man. I'm happy to help inaugurate your lives, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on, and it's been an amazing first episode of this. I'm going to try and do it every Friday, if not every other Friday. And thank you again for birthing the idea. We were talking together about it, and that's just perfect. I'm going to have you back on at some point, get some more of your pedals going on.
Sure.
Amazing, man. Right. Thank you so much again. And yeah, check out Super Cool Pedals. Go get yourself the 77 Fuzz Blender and the new Fuzz Blender Lite.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Peace and love from the Riff Mountain, everyone. Have a good night.